We're all here to make money, and this market is growing rapidly. I think everyone just knows that this market is growing incredibly fast. Last year in March, we saw that we had a really massive Solana meme coin season. That was something nobody here expected. But of course, we want to be in early this time. Naturally, we also want to benefit as much as possible from the altcoin season and everything else that comes with it. And that's why you always have to be prepared for new and emerging narratives. And to get the most out of it, of course, we also want to be involved early in the various narratives. And to be completely honest, we obviously had narratives in the last cycle, but nobody cares about those anymore today. Sandbox, a metaverse project, was once at $7, now it's at 30 cents. So don't let yourself get worked up about it. You should definitely sell every altcoin in the bull run, because if you bought at the top, you'd need a 20-fold increase today just to break even. And honestly, I don't think anyone here is up for that. That's why these narratives change with every cycle. So today, we're going to look at the most interesting narrative, which is currently experiencing massive growth. But before we continue, go ahead and leave a like and a comment. That helps me out a ton. Thank you so much for that. Yeah guys, as we can see, no one really cares about memes anymore. The meme coin narrative has left the market, or rather, the demand keeps dropping, but we're seeing more and more tokenized startups emerging. And let me explain to you how it all started. A 25-year-old has pretty much outpaced every VC investor in Silicon Valley, and that was incredible. These days, in the crypto market, he's often described as the Mark Zuckerberg who once founded Facebook, because Ben has launched an extremely exciting project. Through his website, you can now invest in qualified crypto startups. But okay, now of course people are saying, hey, we've seen this before with ICOs and all that. Nowadays, no one invests in ICOs anymore, no one is interested in that and so on. ICOs are absolutely dead and no one invests in them anymore, which is probably a very, very good thing. Most of them were pure scams anyway. But the simple fact is that we have these huge venture capital firms here investing multi-million dollars in various projects where ordinary people have no chance to participate. I mean, just look at this. Back then, $1.6 million were raised for Celestia, and Celestia was sold for 1 cent. Today, Celestia is at $1.70. So, compared to the current price, that's a 170x increase. It's unbelievable how insanely these venture capital firms have cashed in here just because they got in so early. But it should be said that without this funding, Celestia wouldn't be the project it is today. So this funding was of course a risky investment by the VCs, but it paid off insanely well. And now the Believe project is simply creating new opportunities. Here you can invest in qualified crypto startups and receive shares in the company. And that's really what changes everything here, because nowadays we already have some truly brilliant cryptocurrencies that generate multi-million-dollar revenues. I mean, take Athena, a stablecoin provider that managed to rake in $7 million in revenue in just 24 hours. Incredible numbers. A project like SHIB generates $90 million in revenue in 30 days. These are companies that would be valued at multi-billion dollars in the stock market. The thing is, we're in the crypto market here, and the platform Believe, which we're currently on, wants to make it so that communities invest in projects and that everything no longer goes through VCs. And the difference compared to ICOs and so on is simply that people actually receive real shares of the company. That's why they're called tokenized startups. Here, you invest in startups and basically receive real shares of the startup. So it's really a huge difference from what it used to be, because back in the days of ICOs, you just hoped the coin would go up. Here, you invest in a startup and work to help the company grow. And I'm talking about this now because we really had a huge launch here. Look at these numbers. On that weekend, on launch day, we had 140 million in trading volume just on their platform. As a result, the platform generated $2.5 million just in fees. Through Ben's platform, companies can actually go and sell fractional shares and then use the money for financing. And so far, we've already had thousands of projects that are really taking advantage of these opportunities, and that's just the way things go. Look at how we're growing here. I think Mia summed it up pretty well here. From the early days of Bitcoin to Ethereum, the bull run, then those ICO scams, metaverse and all that, nobody cares about that anymore. At some point we had the AI hype, we had a meme coin season, and nowadays things are increasingly moving in the direction where we can buy tokenized shares of companies, because now we're seeing the first projects launch and it's going fantastically. And the awesome thing is that the community is involved. It's simply a better version of a VC because the community is involved, it has decision-making power and so on. Especially the direction of tokenization is becoming incredibly interesting, but tokenization of companies is going to be really exciting because these companies actually have real capital behind them. The great thing is, when you're involved in the company, you probably also earn passive income from it, and in the future you might even receive dividends and simply profit sharing. Plus you also have a bit of say yourself. So basically, it's what the crypto market stands for, decentralization. And the direction we're heading in right now is basically that we're creating a decentralized VC platform. Really interesting, but that's actually how it should be. And as I said, this RWA sector is fundamentally interesting because the advantage there is that when you tokenize something, it's simply linked to the blockchain with a token in the background, and as a result, the token price can really rise nicely. And we see that in the RWA sector, for example, Ondo is the absolute leader, but it's still building up. It's really incredible. Bit by bit, month by month, it's growing rapidly. Of course, the AI narrative is also interesting in this bull run. Let's not kid ourselves about that. Let's just take a look at these Nvidia numbers. They're incredible. Nvidia announced that they didn't sell any H20 chips to China in the second quarter because of the sanctions and whatever else, and yet Nvidia still posted record revenues. It's unbelievable, the numbers Nvidia is reporting again, but this simply reflects the real economy, and the real economy is moving entirely toward AI. You can see that from Nvidia's numbers, and that's why the AI sector in the crypto space is also becoming very interesting. You shouldn't miss out on that either. But I also find this narrative particularly interesting right now. Take a look at it because, as I said, this is still a very fresh narrative, but I see an incredible amount of capital there because you have to imagine which narrative is interesting. Only a narrative that actually brings capital into the market. And I mean, how awesome is it that basically anyone could be involved in a company that's just starting out, that's just putting its vision out there, where there might really be a cool idea, where this company might actually achieve something big one day, but this company simply needs some initial funding, and that's where the community can get involved. Plus, the community will probably also be able to make some decisions in this project through their shares, and then of course it all depends on the percentage. This is exactly the direction the crypto market and Bitcoin are heading, community driven and everything running in a decentralized way. Super interesting, really exciting. And that's the new era of startup companies right now, both in the real world and in the crypto space. And here's something I'm curious about. How do you assess the whole thing? Have you ever heard of this narrative before? It's brand new. Definitely let me know your opinion here. I find it super exciting. And at this point, feel free to join the Crypto VIP group. There you'll get signals, market updates, spot buys, and you can also do copy trading. Plus, we also have our own indicators here, and you can see that this indicator shows when to sell and when to buy. And you can just see the precision we demonstrate here. That's exactly our philosophy, and indicators like these can be very, very interesting in the long run because, I mean, you can see it. With this indicator, you can clearly see that we simply have a downtrend here. Accordingly, you could probably start going short here again and maybe buy back and down here. But this indicator just shows us exactly that. And guys, as always, leave a like and a comment and see you next time. Ciao.